I
No,
have
and
so
so
many
no.
people like, okay, yeah, let me get in touch. I want to do like Airbnb thing. They really just need to understand, how different it is here.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals from across the country, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and I'm here today with real estate agent Chip Lewis with Home Smart Island Homes out in Honolulu, Hawaii. Chip, thank you for taking the time today. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks, Kat. Glad to be here. So appreciate the invite.
Yes, of course. Well, Chip, you have an interesting story, and I'm sure everybody's interested already because we say Hawaii, and everybody just gets really excited here on the mainland. But you have a really interesting past. Can you kind of walk us through your resume?
Yeah, sure. So I was not from Hawaii originally, so I grew up in the Southeast. So originally from Georgia, we moved to Alabama as a young kid. So kind of, grew up there in a small town and graduated high school, went to college, Auburn University, initially in engineering, and then went into finance. Really enjoyed that. Had my kind of heart set on being in the finance industry after college, which is right after September 11th. Things were kind of weird for a little bit, and ended up getting a job as a financial advisor at Mass Mutual. This is Birmingham, Alabama. So kind of in line what I wanted to do, more kind of insurance focus. So I did that, got licensed, got my Series 6, 63 life insurance license, and had a lot of sales training. And I was a young kid. I mean, I was just out of school. Looked really, really young, kind of got thrown into a sales role with a lot less support than I was anticipating, which in the long run became a really great thing. But it was it was a tough time. But I learned a lot in the business. Stuck it out for about a year, and then wanted to kind of reevaluate my life and what I wanted to do. Had some offers to kind of stay in that business with more kind of a support salary background, but ultimately just kind of felt the need to do something else. I didn't, a lot of my friends were kind of starting to get married and things like that, and I don't know, I just felt like I just wanted to kind of do something else. And of course at that time there was a lot going on with post 9/11, so kind of felt the need to maybe I should serve. Both my grandfathers were in the Navy, so I started kind of looking down that path, and ultimately decided to have a big change, and enlisted in the Navy and the submarine force. So went to boot camp, and following that some training, Groton, Connecticut sub school, and training for my specialty, which is navigation. And then after that, after about a year or so, got my first choice, which was to be stationed on a submarine out of Pearl Harbor, and really been here ever since. Other than quite a few deployments and a lot of time underwater. Did about 10 years active duty. 5 of those I was attached to a submarine. Did shore duty here at a shipyard, and during that time, I kind of met my wife, and we kind of talking about future plans. And hey, what do I do? I got my MBA. I was going to school, so I finished that, and got married, and ended up buying a house here. I wasn't licensed then, and I kind of had a lackluster experience, with that. And then I saw a lot of kind of fellow vets and stuff like that have some pretty poor experiences here with their agents. So it's like, hey, well, maybe this is kind of a good fit for me to kind of transition. So I got my real estate license, and then shortly thereafter I transitioned to the reserves. And I did, when I left active duty, I was a DOD civilian for a couple of years, so to kind of help bridge that transition while I was kind of getting that, my foot in the door and getting my real estate experience.
Wow, that is so cool. And, thank you for all your time spent serving our country, then and now. I'm so interested in this because, okay, like Navy, yes. So very interesting. But on top of that, submarines, like what made you choose like that line within the Navy?
That's a good question. Honestly, I probably don't know. It's just, that's probably what the recruiter was pushing at the time, and I had the scores to support that program, and it's like, oh, you can go in this field, and it's kind of a brotherhood, like a smaller community, something different, and like we'll give you a good bonus, right? So I didn't really join the Navy for the money, But I knew that, yeah, hey, there's benefits, consistent pay, and things like that. In hindsight, it probably turned out to be one of the best financial decisions I made. So
Right. And I mean, and in Hawaii, like,
yeah, it brought me
uh,
here, and like,
yeah,
I basically owe a lot to it, right? I mean, my family and everything, right? I met my wife here, so
right. It's funny how that works out. So, did you, I mean, like, you're talking to somebody who would probably never go on a submarine. Like, I'll do airplanes, I'll do roller coasters. Underwater is like a different animal for me. I'll like go in the ocean, but like, I'm sure you were like in submarines, like in water, like for like long stints of time. What's that like?
yeah. Well, it's just I don't know. I mean, close yourself in a small space with no windows, and the time the crew's on was all male, so it's 130 guys in a still tube. Work, you eat, and sleep. So it can become pretty mundane with some occasional spurts of terror or excitement, but mostly it's just it just becomes like anything. It's a job, right? So there's a lot of training that goes into it, and
Right.
a lot of people say they can't do that, but I think anything, if you go through the right process in training, I mean, most people just that's what okay, you're trained to do this, you just do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, and so many people who go through any sort of, armed service training, it builds a level of like resilience. So, like for
Absolutely, yeah.
me, I don't have that level of resilience to be underwater in a big metal, submarine for weeks and weeks and weeks. But for you, it just sounds like it's
Yeah,
nothing.
it's not nothing. I mean, especially for longer missions when we were deployed and things like that, it becomes very challenging underwater for 60 plus days. That's usually becomes pretty monotonous and things like that. But it's part of the deal, and it's just like anything else in life, right? It's kind of like the hard times, the struggles, which it makes you stronger. And then looking back, right? I don't really look at the bad times or the hard times, right? It's the people and the good times and in those experiences in that small community, which is it's kind of cool. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure kind of that ability to bond with, I'm sure a lot of these people were strangers to you when you showed up
Of
at
course. I
Hawaiian.
mean, there's a couple people we were kind of in the same kind of school pipeline, but most people, it's brand new, and people are from everywhere, all walks of life, every kind of socioeconomic background, and especially in that environment in submarines, nobody cares, right? Like, they only care if you do your job, and if something happens, you can respond to it casually, right? Because your life depends on everybody else.
Yeah. And I'm sure that ability to like bond has kind of translated into like you bonding with your clients, through real estate.
Yeah, it has, and that's what I really kind of like about real estate. It's just kind of like it's certainly a people business, and I tend to find value and kind of mentorship and helping people. That's what I really kind of enjoyed about the Navy, particularly as I kind of moved up the ranks. So kind of real estate still allows me to do that with vets and non-vets. So I find a lot of value in that, and I'm not really interested in being a super high volume producer or anything like that, or being on a large team, because I feel like I just lose that, and then it's not fun, and money's a very small motivator for me.
Right. And it's really cool when you talk about kind of how you got into real estate, you kind of having an underwhelming experience and you hearing that from people you definitely saw a need. And so it seems like this is kind of a theme for you, is where you kind of see a need and then you see how you can, fulfill it. And I think that's kind of like a beautiful in for you into this business.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, why I got in this, and kind of what keeps me here. Sometimes it's easy to kind of get caught up in the kind of everyday challenges of the business, right? So unfortunately, it's not all about relationships and value. I mean, that's what makes it fun, but the problem is you gotta do the stuff to kind of grind to have enough of the I feel it's kind of like the what makes it rewarding to me, which is the end product, which is helping the client, right? Because as you go through a transaction, there's a lot of kind of you become pretty close to people when you go through that, especially if things kind of get challenging, which, I've certainly had, quite a few of those. And then it's closing, and it's, it's almost sad because I'll keep in touch with people, but, it's like you're talking to them every day, and then that kind of like stops.
Right. I've heard other agents, kind of talk about their clients similarly, especially, you're all working together towards a common goal. Do you have some kind of more memorable, stories of when you've helped your clients either buy or sell?
Yeah, all of them, are great, and in some way or another. Some of them can be very challenging, but honestly, that's how you grow, and that's where you really kind of learn as an agent. But yeah, some of them, that the first deal I had was a really good friend of mine, and honestly, it was like my highest value sale for a number of years. Right, it's almost like 1.5 million dollar sale in Hawaii, but I was a new agent, and I'm like he wants to go with me, but I'm like, am I ready for this? And luckily I had a awesome broker who I'm still with, super experienced, and he definitely kind of helped me as a backstop, but he also wanted me to kind of put myself out there and go through the process and learn with him, kind of backing me up. So that's super rewarding. That was like my first sale ever back in like 2015, and still a friend, still in the same house. He's gained $1 million plus equity in the house, and he's done renovation. He has a family in there now. But yeah, that, and then some of them I've had that are they're challenging and they're struggles, but it's staying in it to just do what's right for the client. Just kind of having that long-term vision, which is kind of hard, in this business, because not on a salary, and being persistent, sticking at it. Issues with things like permitting is a huge problem in Hawaii. So if you identify those, I've had some transactions that, it's taken, a year plus to resolve those issues. So basically maybe a 2-year plus span from when they first looked at the house until, we got it under contract, and then you resolve these issues and then close. And that might have been one of my most rewarding, because it was and it was during COVID, so everything the permitting was slowed down, and everybody was out of work, and it just took forever. But
Wow, we're really getting to the good part, and I can't wait for you to hear what comes next. But first, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to make sure you're following the Closing Table podcast wherever it is you get your podcasts. Also, please leave us a comment or review. It is the best no-cost thing you can do for the podcast, and it helps us find more awesome listeners like you. While I have you, I'd also like to highlight our sponsor. WindowStill provides premium real estate media for agents, builders, and property management companies nationwide. To learn more, visit windowstill.com. WindowStill, helping America find their next chapter. Now, back to the episode. Oh, wow. 2 years. Gosh, that's you got to have a high level of patience.
yeah, you do. And luckily I had wonderful buyers that, they really wanted this house, and they were willing to kind of, stick with it and do whatever it takes to make it happen. So that helps too, right? Because part of it, everybody's a team, right? So the agent, the client, the lender, the inspectors, everybody. So just having that really good team that kind of works together, that kind of, especially if they kind of have, some common, values as it comes to business and putting the client first. I think that's extremely important. So.
Certainly. And I would think, thinking about like Hawaii and not being like native,
Yeah.
you're from the mainland. I'm sure like your time serving in the Navy, like you got to know the area super, super well.
So now I've been here, over 18 years now. Early on I was gone a lot, but it's kind of explored most of the island and know very well, like most of the areas and neighborhoods and people that move here. I'm able to kind of share, hey, like things about the island and outside of a house, but like, hey, where would you want to live based on like what you like to do, your family situation and things like that. So having that kind of experience here, and particularly the military experience, there's that, obviously that connection, especially for military clients.
Right. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of them are coming from all over the country, and then are looking for a resource like you.
Right, and that's, it doesn't always happen, but ideally, you kind of get connected to somebody, 6 months plus before they kind of move out here, so you can kind of start kind of getting them to speed, like, hey, what's life like out here? Like, what's the areas? Where would I want my kids to go to school and things like that? And I think if you're able to do that and kind of, walk them through that process and maybe kind of show them some stuff virtually, and by the time they either get here or closer to the time, they're very comfortable and they're ready to make a decision, and particularly with military clients, because a lot of services, a tour is 2 or 3 years, right? So even 3 years, if they don't buy, I mean, the value proposition's here, but if you don't buy, right away, there's some uncertainty that they'll have a follow-on tour. So it might make less of a sense to buy. So if you kind of catch them beforehand, and I've had quite a few clients that, we build that relationship, they trust me, we do virtual showings, and they're like, all right, this is the house, let's do it. And then we close either when the day they're flying on island or even, before that. And then, sometimes I hand them the keys and they've owned the house for a couple weeks later, and I meet them at the airport. So, that's kind of cool, because then, they're not stuck in a hotel with kids and a dog and, all that stuff. They go to their new house and they can get settled and super happy, and it's certainly rewarding for me.
That's very cool. I think the assumption is, or maybe this is just my assumption and I could be wrong, that like property or buying a home in Hawaii is expensive. Would you say that's true, or there's more options than people think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have, real estate here is, it's some of the highest in the country, right? I mean, I think a couple places, you're looking at San Diego, New York, maybe San Francisco, property values are probably on average a little bit higher, but just the island of Oahu, we're median sales price is 1.1, and that's the whole island, right? So that includes a lot of areas that are lower priced. Where I live, it's it's almost like it's getting it's going to be $2 million median sales price soon. So that's tough, and it's tough for most people, and it's tough for a lot of people to grasp that aren't familiar with that if they're coming from somewhere like say Texas or Florida or things like that. Particularly military clients are like, well, things are expensive there. They also don't realize that, and because you're in the military, right, you receive a housing allowance, a cost of a living allowance here. So, it's important to kind of educate them about how far their money goes here, because obviously they're going to qualify for a much higher loan here. And the market's just different here too. On Oahu, we're we're a small island. We really don't have much land to build anymore, so we're not really adding much inventory. We're going up in some towers. We're trying to attack some of the shortages, but look at the last 30 years. Prices here have averaged almost 5% a year in Hawaii, which is different than most markets. Most of the value is in the land, right? Land is always valuable. Land appreciates. Rarely do structures, except in high inflationary environments. So you're buying a piece of land in Hawaii, where we're obviously we're not making any more land, but we don't really have anywhere else to build. And something that a lot of people don't understand is Hawaii, although our values are incredibly high, we do have probably the lowest property taxes in the country for owner-occupied home.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Hawaii's a little bit different. We are a small state, so we have like one school system, right, which is a state school system. So whereas most communities, in the U.S., obviously the property taxes go to the school system. Here, because we only have one, we have a state school system. We fund our education through the general fund, which comes through income taxes, and Hawaii has a general excise tax, which acts somewhat like a sales tax.
Interesting. That's cool. Yeah, and you're talking about there's only essentially a finite amount of space on the island, which is kind of like my thought too. In the area, I'm in Michigan, is just ballooning with new construction. Not only is there a finite space on the island, a lot of it is national parks or protected land, which is a great draw. Who doesn't want to, walk on these beautiful trails and things like that? So we definitely want to keep those. Speaking of the islands, gosh, It seems so easy. This seems like an easy question, but what is your favorite thing about selling in Hawaii?
For me, it's just not being stuck in the office and being able to kind of go around and see, it's part of my job, different parts of the island. And even though I've been here a long time, it's just I'm still seeing like kind of new like little like pockets and neighborhoods, and just kind of being out and about. And obviously, we have beautiful scenery here, so sometimes just driving around if I have a showing on North Shore, or just driving up that way, it's nice.
I bet. I have big plans to visit one day, like I'm sure most people do. In addition to your business of helping people buy and sell, you are also a real estate
Yeah,
investor,
yeah, I
correct?
am.
So tell us what that's like for you.
Yeah, I've always been interested in real estate. I mean, I took some classes in college, but didn't really do much with it. I bought my first rental property before I bought a house to live in, which is pretty uncommon. For me, it was kind of situational because I was still attached to a submarine in Hawaii, and I was kind of waiting on orders. So I didn't know if I was going to be able to stay here or not. In retrospect, I should have utilized my VA loan earlier, but I just I didn't know as much about it at that time. But anyway, I didn't know if I was going to stay here, so my parents were looking at some property on the Gulf Coast, so I got kind of hooked up with their agent and just like, well, I want to diversify some money on the stock market, so bought a vacation rental there. Not really, it wasn't really Airbnb back then, and didn't really have a plan. It's just like, okay, like numbers kind of make sense. It's kind of a diversification thing, so did that, and then I met my wife. She had a rental in Colorado. She was kind of an accidental landlord because she moved out here, and the market wasn't good, so she kept it as rental. So we had that property, and then I bought some properties here. It was kind of a single family home, but you could rent as multiple units. And then it kind of started getting busy with I was a reserves, a real estate agent. I was actually working another job for a little bit. Started having kids, and it's like this is not sustainable to build a real estate portfolio on top of everything else I'm going on. So I ended up doing a 1031 exchange of my first property, and turned that into about a small multi-family portfolio in North Alabama. So it's like, okay, I'll get into multifamily, more stable income streams, 18 units. It's 4 properties. So I still have that, trying to figure out what I want to do with it now. But then as I was going through that process, it was a little difficult because I was selling one, buying 4 properties. I was also in a contract with like 4 more houses, and we had appraisal issues, and it was just a mess. I almost blew the 1031 timelines. Like, gosh, this is supposed to be easier. And then as soon as I closed on it, I have like a major league like a week later and spend a bunch of money. So, okay, I got to figure out a way to be more passive. So kind of during that time, met somebody that was doing apartment investing, lives here, but most of the investing was on the mainland. So syndications, I'd heard about this stuff, but I didn't really have good connections, and you really need to know people to trust. So I kind of got connected with that. Somebody in there learned a lot about it, and it's like, okay, this makes sense. I just have to vet the deals, and it's kind of truly passive, right? You just kind of give them money, and they have to deal with the tenants, the headaches, and the banks and all that, and hopefully it just works out and you get checks. So, I saw that, the power of that, and then the economies of scale, the tax benefit. So just kind of went all in on that. And then, so most of my portfolio now, I have some stuff, that small portfolio, I still own, but a lot of my stuff is various commercial LP investments, whether it's self-storage, mobile home parks, large apartment complexes, like done some like ATM funds and RV parks, kind of like you name it. And so even though your taxes get pretty complicated, but there's also kind of some benefits there with the losses, and you just got to track down your K1s every year and just plan on extending to October.
So that's really interesting. So most of your investment properties are not in Hawaii then,
Yeah,
right?
so now I don't have any investment properties here. I think going forward, I'm looking to kind of, get some more in here, because I've kind of gone completely kind of passive, which is great, but you also kind of lose control. And I'm sure you're aware it's a challenging time right now in the commercial real estate market. So interest rates haven't wreaked havoc as much on the residential market, but they certainly have on the commercial. So although I think most of mine are okay. Things are kind of slow right now with my portfolio and a little bit of uncertainty. So since I'm so heavily invested in that, trying to pull back a little bit, maybe do some, investing locally and doing some other stuff. I started getting into do some private lending last year and things like that, just to mix it up. So.
Wow. I mean, I would never really think in terms of real estate investing going to a different state to do that. But it kind of makes sense, especially, when you're in Hawaii and there's a finite number of properties and the property values are high, like it kind of makes sense to like let's look at somewhere where it's, maybe more in line with what you can do right now.
Right. It's a different market. So here, it's certainly like a lot of your coastal cities. It's an appreciation market. So in the long term, you're probably better investing here, but you're not going to get the cash flow. So if you're looking for cash flow, very, very rarely are you going to get it here. I had one that was cash flowing for a while here. I did that, and it just came time to switch it up. Though I had some bad tenants and things like that. But here usually you get a really good tenants, but you're not going to get the cash flow. If you go into the class B and C properties in a lot of markets, on the mainland U.S., like it's a lot. Even though now it's a little bit more challenging with interest rates, cash flow is a lot more achievable there than it is here.
What about even like an Airbnb in Hawaii? I would think that would be a pretty good deal. No?
Yeah, except for the laws are pretty stringent here, and they've really kind of cracked down in the last couple of years. So at least on Oahu, where I am, you're really not able to get like a new transient vacation rental license unless you're in a resort zoned area. So there's very few resort zoned area. We're talking about like Turtle Bay, Ko'olina, and then like Waikiki, but not even all of Waikiki. We're talking about like half of it, and the building has to allow rentals less than 30 days. So back a couple years ago, pre-COVID, the laws were still there. People were just doing it, and the Airbnb thing blew up. The city wasn't really enforcing the rules. They really kind of turned a blind eye as long as you paid your taxes and your neighbors didn't complain too much. But it became such a problem, and it was taking some rental units for local families and things like that, and kind of changing the fabric and character of neighborhoods. So they really kind of clamp down on the vacation rentals. So super stiff penalties here. Yeah, it's just not something you want to come into this market to try to do a vacation rental unless you have a license. So either you can get a new one, which is kind of mostly limits you to condos and resort zone areas, or you buy a property that has a existing non-conforming use permit. So, but if you buy one though, especially if it's kind of like a B&B that's been operating since the 80s when they last issued those things, like you're essentially not only you're buying a house with very expensive land, but you're buying an operating business. So price tag is very steep for those. But,
wow, I guess I never would have thought,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
you don't.
I have so many people like, okay, yeah, let me get in touch. I want to do like the Airbnb thing there. I'm like, okay, well, let me explain how this works before we kind of go down this path. And they're like, oh, probably not the best thing, but in certain circumstances and for certain buyers, it can be an option. You just really need to understand how different it is here. But also, we're seeing that in a lot of other cities on the mainland too. Really kind of clamping down on Airbnbs.
Wow. So it just sounds like you got to do your research, and it's maybe a bit of a process.
Yeah, it's certainly so. And you just need to know, I mean, before you go, I've had clients that have bought places here with the impression that they could do that, but, they weren't really educated on it. And now we're kind of having to sell it, and it didn't work out, how they were. That's why I just try to, educate people so they can make the right decision, not just what's going to benefit me in the short run.
Right. So it sounds like the takeaway here is if you're thinking of buying a home with the intention of making it like an Airbnb or a Verbo or one of these types of things, that you should definitely inform your agent, right, so that they can notify you of any kind of restrictions.
Yeah, and there's also now there's a lot of there's a mandatory short-term rental disclosure that is part of the transaction process where the owner has to disclose whether it's a legal short-term rental or not. And if it is, they need to turn over like all the permits and the history, and then upon the sale, that gets turned over to the Department of Planning and Permitting.
Awesome. Knowing everything you know now, if you were to start over in real estate today, is there anything you would be doing differently?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think the one thing I've always I've always worked for kind of the same broker. We kind of went through different companies, but had a very experienced, awesome broker. When I got started, in some ways, I think it was the best thing for me because, I was able to kind of like learn on my own with that kind of like that backdrop support. But now, you see, I'm not a big fan of, all the teams and things like that, but I think, if I kind of got started that way, kind of right off the bat, that might have jump-started my sales career a little bit more, and then kind of learn, some of the systems and things like that. Where I'm at now with my family and, real estate investing, I'd like more business, but I'm kind of in the, the sweet spot where it kind of allows me to kind of really, still focus on the clients.
That's awesome. And has there been anything that surprised you about your real estate journey? Anything that like you kind of like look back and you're like, I just never thought that would happen?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that's kind of surprising is the tools. Even when I first got in the business, I was like, oh, well, I don't know everything and things like that. The surprising thing is maybe it's I have a ton of support and things like that, and maybe I should have, jumped in. I'm always more conscious about like not doing the best job or not knowing everything, but I probably know a lot more than a lot of people. And
Yeah, I mean, you got to give yourself the credit, right? I think we're always our own like
yeah,
harshest
and that's
critic.
really, I am too. And I just in my head, everybody tells me I'm great, but I just don't. I'm like, okay, well, I could be better, and maybe that's just kind of one my nature, but also kind of the submarine community. That's kind of what we're driven to do, right? We always want to critique things, even good things, about what we did good, and what we can do better. So I'm kind of always looking at kind of self-improvement, and like even if it's stuff that wasn't my fault, I feel like, oh well, still like I should have been able to foresee that, and I kind of take the blame for that.
So when you do kind of meet these like bumps in the road, how do you handle them? Do you look back to some mindset stuff? Do you look back to your Navy training?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think at this point, it's kind of second nature and instinct, and a lot of things comes through kind of just my varied experience, and particularly my military. But I mean, the one thing is, in the Navy they teach us don't be the senior person with a secret. Don't be afraid to deliver bad news right away. Honestly, in transactions or things come up, things happen, just get it out there right away, and then just figure out a plan to attack that. Be proactive.
I think that's great advice. What are your goals for your real estate business this year?
Yeah, I'm not one to set specific goals, but I'm just trying to increase my reach and presence. So last year I had somebody create a website for me, so that's kind of going pretty well. But just trying to kind of grow my organic presence. I don't want to not want to kind of like buy leads and and things like that, but just grow my presence and ultimately just be able to kind of help more families. Like I said, it's for me, it's about the relationships and things like that. Sometimes the struggle is, with everything going on with life, it's doing the basics of following up with people and things like that, have kind of that more consistent sales pipeline. So that's what I'm working on this year, and along with something I've done the last couple of years, really kind of building my network around the country with other agents, and not just any agent, but agents that has similar values and somebody that I can trust and send my clients to. So particularly with a lot of military clients that will PCS around the country. So now I've kind of developed a pretty trusted network around the country that I actually feel comfortable sending people to. And then if I don't have anybody there, I have a bunch of other trusted agents I can ask, like, hey, who's here that you'd recommend sending a awesome client to?
That's awesome. I guess I didn't think about it like that, but yeah, it seems like it makes sense that there should just be this whole network of VA real estate agents helping each other out as people are moving from base to base to base.
Yeah, there's a tons of different groups and things like that, but some of that can be really hit or miss. So I try to kind of go like personal, develop these relationships setups with these agents before I send them a client. So I kind of know a lot about the person, and digging a layer deeper than just, hey, what's your sales numbers or stuff like that, because at the end of the day, like, that person might not be the best person to take care of my clients.
Certainly. And then, Chip, do you have anything you're looking forward to this year, like not business related, maybe personally?
Yeah, trying to get, as a family, we're trying to get kind of better at doing like regular vacations. So they're just kind of booking kind of staycations and things like that. We do have a family cruise coming up this summer, so it's my family and my parents going to come along with us. So really looking forward to that. And sometimes as an agent, you're kind of always working, so it's kind of hard to disconnect sometimes. So I think that I'm looking forward to that, because I think I'm going to be forced to kind of unplug for a bit. So I also annually, my dad, brother, and some friends I grew up with, we go on a big fishing trip offshore off of Louisiana. So that's always something I look forward to, because there's no internet, no cell service, and we're offshore fishing for like 3 days. And it's kind of it's a forced break. So if I did have that connectivity, I'm sure it would be kind of keeping tabs. But it's kind of nice. It's very important, to kind of, even in this business, to kind of take breaks and recharge them.
Oh, certainly. And yeah, if you were on your phone, you'd scare the fish away.
We take our phone with us for now. There's navigation apps and stuff like that. GPS works, but all your no cell service and stuff.
That's awesome. That sounds like fun. I'm excited for you. Well, Chip, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. Would you like to direct people how they can find you, how they can work with you?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Kat, thanks so much for being here. Yeah, my name's Chip Lewis. ChipLewisHomes.com is my website, so you can kind of go on there and learn more about me. There's links to my portfolio, social media history, some more stuff from my background.
Awesome. And we'll link it in the show notes so that everybody can find you.
Awesome. Great.
Well, thank you everyone for listening with us today. This has been The Closing Table, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm Kat Schooler. If you're enjoying this podcast, please make sure you are following us on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, make sure you're subscribed. If you subscribe, put in the comments, I'm subscribed, and I will personally reply to each and every comment. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next time.